Are you running late? Is there a need to get where you're going quickly? All things that your mind processes in an instant. You make the conscious choice to either hit the brake pedal or to go hammer down. And as we'll see, silver car, when faced with that decision, just like Mr. Chen, accelerated, kept going, didn't stop. I want you to keep that in mind as we start going through the proof. What opportunities did Mr. Chen have during this to take the off-ramp away from violence, away from murder, away from 60 stab wounds? And it's important to know the timeline. How long does it take to choose to kill Miss Jasmine Pace? Mere seconds. Our story starts at 11:27 p.m. when Miss Jasmine Pace leaves her parents' house. You've seen the pictures of it. She drives from her residence to Jason Chen's apartment at 110 Tremont Street. We can see her arriving at 11:42. A minute before, her My Chevy app shows that her ignition turns off in her car. And people asked in the case in chief, who is the person walking towards the door of the apartment? State's position is that that's Miss Jasmine Pace. The last time she'd ever be seen alive. Then at 2:11 a.m., the defense called a witness whose name is Courtney Paglino Brewer. She was awoken by a scream. It lasted several seconds, she described. She heard footsteps chasing away from the bedroom towards the front door. She heard a female voice that she described as sad but assertive. And the tail end of an argument is what was said. And then she hears the front door slam to Mr. Chen's apartment. Not the interior door. She told you she knows what the interior door sounds like. She knows what the front doors to the apartment sound like when they... Driver's licenses, credit cards. Moving forward to 9:52 a.m., now 7 3/4 hours, or 7 hours and 45 minutes after Miss Jasmine Pace was murdered, we get to the Tinder. We get to the Tinder data on Mr. Chen's cell phone. And what does it show? Oops. What's it show? I guess we're dating now. Ask yourselves, is that the mindset of a person who's stricken with grief? Or is it the mindset of somebody who has zero remorse, who does not care, that would take a body, put it in garbage bags, load it into the suitcase, load it into their car, drive it out to the wilderness, and dump it on the side of the road? Which is consistent? Your common sense tells you that it's the latter. Shortly after, at 10:29, we see Mr. Chen emerge from his apartment for the first time on the 23rd. He's wearing a very distinctive hat. Anything goes. This hat's important. Probably wondering, why would we introduce a hat into evidence? It's because, ladies and gentlemen, this is the one article of clothing that through it all never leaves Mr. Chen's person. We can see here on the Arctic video starting at 10:29, Dr. Cogswell told you that dead people don't move. Right? Makes sense. Don't know that it would require a medical expert to say that, but it is a truth. These are the shackles. Ankle, arm, connected at the elbow. Why would Jason Chen take the time to apply a set of broken shackles to somebody? Would it? But dead bodies don't move. You know what do move? Somebody that you're trying to stab 60 times. They don't move much if they're shackled. They don't move much if their right hand is handcuffed to the inside of their right ankle. But ask yourselves, why did the handcuffs not break? Well, you get a whole lot of momentum. Your leg and your hand are tied together. You can't really kick because you can only go as far with your leg as you can with your arm. But guess what you can do with these shackles? You've got more length to work with to build up momentum and snap the chain. Not enough for Miss Pace to get away. No. Not enough for her to get away. She had 2 sets of restraints keeping her right arm down there so she couldn't fight back with her right hand. Only with her left. You can see it right there. It's broken because Jasmine Pace fought back. It's broken that because when Jason Chen put those cuffs on her, she tried to get away, but was only to break free of 1 set. Couldn't break from the second. That's all it took. It's all it took to keep her in one place so that he could inflict a total of 60 stab and incise wounds on her little body. That's all it took. Having her in the fetal position with one arm chained to her right leg on the inside. And let's think about it. Why on the inside? Why not the outside? If it is, as the defense would have you believe, that Jasmine Pace was cuffed up while she was dead, right? Why on earth would they apply one shackle to the elbow and the other one to the left leg? She's not moving. She's not going anywhere. You'd make it so that it matches, right? You want her to be in as tight of a package as possible to fit into this teeny little suitcase that's not designed to hold a person. She's not moving. Cuff the hands together, shackle the 2 legs together, and pull them together. You wouldn't go haphazard, right hand to right leg, and then attach a cuff here and attach the shackle to the left leg. That's indicative of she doesn't want to be shackled. He's just slapping the shackles on whatever he can find, whatever he can get his hands on. It's been insinuated that this was a crime of passion. Mr. Chen blacked out. Didn't know what he was doing. 60 stabs. Wakes up. Why didn't I come? I want you to remember something. Dr. Cogswell told you that the injuries inflicted on Miss Pace, Jasmine, were from 2 categories. Antemortem, paramortem. He emphatically said, I found no evidence of postmortem injuries. Remember that testimony? You mean that a crazed individual who doesn't know what they're doing knows the precise moment to stop stabbing? Or would somebody who's acting under some kind of a passion that just keeps stabbing, they would keep going after they're dead? He used the precise amount of force necessary to accomplish his goal, and then he stopped. That's evidence of premeditation. It shows that he knows what he's doing. It shows that he's in control of his actions.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, on behalf of Jason Chen and his defense team, we appreciate your attentiveness during the course of this trial. This has been a difficult trial. Jasmine Pace's life was taken on November 23rd, 2022. Jason Chen did that. Jason Chen and Jasmine Pace have been in a relationship on and off, as you heard testimony, for about a minute. On November 22nd, just before midnight, Jasmine Pace came to Jason Chen's home at 110 Tremont Street, apartment 210. It's undisputed. Jason killed Jasmine. He got a knife, and 60 times, Jasmine was stabbed. That hasn't been disputed by the defense since the first day of this trial. What's been disputed is the state's allegation that this is premeditated. You as a jury have the most important job. You're going to retire to a jury room, and you're going to be looking at all of this evidence. You're going to be looking at all of the testimony, recalling the testimony that you've heard from all of the witnesses. Investigator Crawford, Dr. Cogswell, Courtney Brewer, CSU investigators. You're going to be going through mounds of evidence, days of testimony. And like the general asked you during jury selection, you get to use your common sense. You get to apply what you know to the facts and the evidence that's been given to you. What we know is that from just after 2 o'clock in the morning, everything that Jason did showed that there was complaint. It showed that he wasn't acting rational. Rational people don't shackle individuals and put them in garbage bags. They don't shackle the individual, put them in the garbage bag, and put them in a suitcase. Well, are not acceptable or adequate. If you believe that Jason was provoked to a point of being in fear or terror, then you're going to be looking at the jury instructions specific to voluntary manslaughter. I'm going to pull up on the screen here what specifically you need to look at in the jury instructions regarding premeditation. When you're dealing with premeditation, and I'm going to read this to you, but you have the ability to read it yourself. It's a premeditated act that is done after the exercise of reflection and judgment. Not one, but both. An exercise of reflection and judgment. Premeditation means that the intent to kill must have been formed prior to the act. What we've heard for days is everything Jason has done after. This is not you going to the jury room and determining that there's post-meditation. It's premeditation. Everything that Jason did before Jasmine's death. It's not necessary that the purpose to kill pre-exists in the mind of the accused for any definite period of time. The state says each of those actions, 120 movements, Jason should have had the ability to reflect. They haven't shown that he did. What you need to look at also is Dr. Cogswell, she couldn't move. She couldn't break the shackles. She couldn't break handcuffs. The reason they aren't there is because they were not applied so that Jason could stab her. They were applied so that he could fit her into garbage bags before putting her into a suitcase. If the state was able to establish that she was cuffed and shackled, there's your premeditation. They don't have that. You don't have that for the proof either. What you have is the state's argument to you today. That's the theory you should believe. And their own expert, your trial, your attentiveness has been very clear throughout this. and it's much appreciated. In reviewing this evidence, we ask you to return a verdict of voluntary manslaughter. That's Jason Chen. Thank you.
Let's stay.
In opening statement, I told you that we would give you the dots and we would help you connect them. Every single fact we mentioned in opening statement, we proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Every single fact we committed to, we proved to you beyond a reasonable doubt, because that's what opening statements are for. To give you the evidence you're about to see. And then you heard from Mr. Chen's attorney, who committed to a very specific story. Remember, we didn't just talk about that story, right? We backed off that story because one and the other. Oh, that Jasmine liked him more than he liked her. Wrong. You never saw proof of it. In fact, you have all the messages that they didn't want to show you. They wanted to put them in evidence and then just hope that maybe you'll waste your time reading them. So what did I do? I put them on the screen for you. That weekend before he killed her, he asked her to come over. Oh, she likes him more? No. If you want to waste your time reading the messages, read them. You'll find out that that was not true. What they committed to an opening statement was not true. Holds, regardless of whether you delete things, those are his Tinder records. And not only did he not have Tinder notifications from that morning, he didn't even have Tinder notifications from November 22nd. That was their adequate provocation. It didn't happen. We know for a fact it didn't happen. So now they stand up here and they say, adequate provocation. He was provoked with zero evidence. What the evidence was is that he chased her to the door of that apartment. Miss Paglino Brewer was the state's best witness, and I didn't even call her. But more importantly, the shame that he's going to bring on his family, the shame that comes with everything that he's being accused of today. Manipulative. Selfish. He's scared for what his future entails. He's so scared that he texts on Tinder Victoria at 9:52 with some corny pickup line. He's so scared for his future that he's playing video games with his friends later that day. Don't worry about Jasmine Pace, who's dead in your apartment the entire day until 6 p.m. when you take her to Suck Creek Row, criminal defendants. You've heard the name Jason Chen a whole lot since we started jury selection last week. Victims matter. Jasmine Pace is not just some girl listed in an autopsy report. She is not the photos that you have seen. Don't minimize her to a name on an indictment. She is a person. She had family that loved her, that you've heard from this week. She was a friend. She was a granddaughter. Please don't minimize this trial to the trial for him. I'm going to ask that you take all this information, all the notes you've made this week, all of the closing argument information. You're instructed to go back there and begin with first-degree premeditated murder. Go back there together and find him guilty. Please. Thank you, Judge.
Is that correct? Yes, sir. All right. Are you the full person of this jury?
Yes, sir.
Have you arrived at a verdict?
Yes, we have.
And if you were... Juror 15, if you could stand and read the verdict. Chen, stand and turn. Start with respect to.
With respect to count 1 of presentment 315228, we, the jury, find the defendant, Jason Chen, guilty of first-degree premeditated murder.
This is an emotional verdict. Everyone needs to maintain decorum, please. All right, rest of the jurors, if this is your individual verdict, please so indicate by raising your right hand. Records reflect that everyone's right hands are raised. All right, sir, read count 2.
With respect to count 2 of presentment 315228, we, the jury, find the defendant, Jason Chen, guilty of abuse of the courts.
All right, rest of the jurors, if this is your individual verdict, please so indicate by raising your right hand. Records reflect all right hands are raised. All right, maybe seated, sir. Maybe seated, Mr. Chen. Please sign according to the polling.
Oh, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Chen, as 13th juror sitting in this case, I do agree with the jury's verdict of guilty and hereby pronounce you guilty of the first-degree murder of Jasmine Pace. This brings us to the sentencing phase of this particular